Hey guys, this is Gabe Dimock from the Baseball Rebellion, and today I'm going to break down Houston Astros Tyler White. I've actually watched Tyler play for a long time. Part of the reason being that we were in the same conference in college. So I played at Appalachian State, and he played at Western Carolina. And this guy could absolutely crush the ball. You know, his senior year, he hit 363, 16 home runs, and a 1.084 OPS, which, if you know anything about college baseball, you know that those numbers are crazy, especially with the newer bats. So he could absolutely crush the ball, and we were nobody was sure where he was going to get drafted or if he was going to get drafted, partially because he was a little on the bigger side, maybe not in the best shape in the world, and he would tell you not the best athlete, not the best fielder, but can absolutely crush the ball. And so this just goes to show you that if you can hit, you can play. Now he's worked hard. He's lost 20 or 30 pounds since then, and I wouldn't say he's the best athlete even now, but he's worked really hard to change his body up a little bit. But he knows his strengths, he knows his limitations, and he really relies on the bat to make his money and to be where he is. And so back when I was in college playing against him, I mean, he crushed us. He hit 2 home runs against us his senior year and just a bunch of doubles, just absolutely crushed us. And I always wondered, how does that guy hit so well? Because I didn't really know anything about hitting, and now it's really cool for me to watch him in the major leagues, look at these different camera views and things like that, and now that I know a little more, I can say, oh man, that's why that guy can hit. And so I want to explain some of that stuff to you guys today. He's off to a hot start this year with the Astros, kind of taking the league by storm a little bit. He's hitting 274, 5 home runs, and a 919 OPS, which is super good for a rookie. And I think he's going to stick in this league for a long time because of what he does with the bat. So the first thing that you notice when you see Tyler hit is that he is very under control. Now, a lot of people don't think that you can be under control and move forward at the same time, but he definitely does that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this cursor, and we're gonna judge whether he moves forward or how much he moves forward using the seats in the background. So you can see his head's right in the middle of the seat where my red cursor is, and as he goes forward, I'm just going to keep my cursor on the middle of that red seat. So this is kind of right here as he's landing. Okay, so right as he's landing, right about there. Okay, his head has moved significantly. So his head has moved from the middle of that seat all the way to here. So he's definitely moved his body forward, and he's generating some momentum there. But it's very calm. It's very under control. He's not rushing forward. He's really almost falling off that back leg. So you can see the angle of his back leg change. So here's where his back leg starts, and let's see what happens. So he's going to, and the camera kind of moves here, so it's a little tough. But right when he's before his hips turn, so right here is he's still kind of loaded into that back hip. His back hip hasn't turned yet, but you can see that he's moved forward because that angle really changes on his back leg. Okay, and that's kind of the first thing we look for to see whether a guy moves forward or not is his back knee moving, is that angle changing? And then right here, as he goes to land, I really want you to notice how his right hip is pretty deep. Okay, so that just means that his hip is kind of loaded back. He's kind of almost pushed that back, butt cheek, back hip kind of toward the dugout back here. And now when he goes to swing, he's going to rip it out. So right here, as he goes to land, you can see that hip starting to move. And what happens is that knee turns in. So he gets phenomenal separation here. This is such an impressive position. You can see his front knee, which is closed right here, his front foot, which is closed right here. And watch what happens as he lands. They both turn open, and he gets really good separation. I mean, you can see that his belt line is way up the first base line. His chest is very, very closed here. His bat's still up. He's resisted, and he's just created a ton of torque, a ton of separation, and he's ready to launch the shoulders and the arms and the hands and the barrel up through the ball at this point. But his lower half goes first. This is an incredibly good position, very, very impressive. And this is most of the reason that he's so good. But let's keep going through it. So let's watch what happens as he set up that great turn. You're going to see him thrust that back hip forward. So watch his back hip. It's really going to pull up forward through the ball, okay? And the back foot, because of that, watch the back foot. His back foot's going to move every time because he's moved forward. He's given it room to pull forward. and he's a really powerful hip thrust, pulling that back foot forward. So back here it's off the ground and then comes forward as he finishes his turn. Okay, back here at contact, if we back it up, right before contact, his front leg is totally straight. He's got a really nice lean back through his back leg and then up through his spine. Okay, so great lean back here. You're going to see that once he's landed, okay, so right about there, his head is going to stay extremely still. So if I put this circle around his head is staying extremely still, right around here, right around contact. His vision is phenomenal. He's turned his nose back a little bit here. Really good vision. You can see his barrel. It's a little tough to see it just because it's kind of a black blur there, so it's a little tough to see. But if we mark what we can see right in the middle of his barrel, okay, coming through here, and then contact being somewhere around here, okay, his swing path is really, really good. You can see that Nike shaped swing path, that slightly up path, and he does a really nice job of on really most of his swings here of getting the barrel behind the ball deep and then releasing out. So he gets great, what people call extension, but it's not that he's really pushing his arms like crazy. He's not bench pressing the ball. He's turning really fluidly. You can see his hands haven't gotten way away from his back shoulder. He's not pushing out, but he just almost throws that bat up through the ball as he finishes. And you're going to see that on almost all his swings, and he's a really, really good hitter. His lower half, though, sets it up, and then the upper body, just lets it, that's where he finds a lot of his control, a lot of his accuracy, and his upper body working really well, turning it deep in the zone, releasing those arms out so that if he's early, he keeps the barrel in the way, and he just swings athletically and turns really, really well. So let's go ahead to the next swing here that I have. And this is an interesting view because what we're going to see is that he actually steps out a little bit. Okay, so let's watch Tyler's heels. Okay, so right here, you can see that his heels are a little bit out of line. You see that? So we call a straight step heel to heel. That's kind of what we teach, is to go straight ahead. But he actually steps out here. Now, part of that, he doesn't do it on all his swings. Part of that may be that you can see the pitcher here. So out of the hand, maybe he sees that this pitch is a little more in, or maybe right down the middle, and he can maybe afford to step out and clear those hips a little bit. Bautista does that sometimes as well. But it doesn't really hurt him here, and here's why. So if you watch his back elbow, his back shoulder blade right here, okay, I want you to notice that it's going to really pull back this way, okay, and it's not his shoulders necessarily turning in like crazy. It's more the elbow turning back or pulling back, the elbow and the shoulder blade. And so what that does is it keeps the front shoulder closed kind of on that ball a little longer, so that even though he's striding out, he's stepping out, his shoulders can stay closed, and that's his direction. And this being that, he saw it as maybe an inside pitch, that allowed him to step out a little more, clear those hips a little easier. And, right here, he's going to get to that again, that really good position. You can see the back heel off the ground back here, the hips way open. You can see the foot in fair territory over here, and then the chest still being closed, okay? And then from here, he's able to turn. You see that back foot being pulled forward again from that hip thrust. Really good barrel flail, barrel turn, behind the ball, up through it, and you're going to see him hit a home run to left center there again at Yankee Stadium. So just because he steps out here doesn't mean that he's got a huge flaw in his swing. I mean, I guess we would rather see him step straight, but he stepping out is, I would say, doesn't actually hurt you at all as long as your shoulders remain closed. And a lot of people, will turn their shoulders in a lot like this. And sometimes that worries us because the front shoulder will want to be the first thing to pull out. But for Tyler, he does a really nice job of keeping that shoulder blade, that back shoulder blade, retracted as long as he can, so that he gets to this spot where his hips have opened but his chest is still closed. So that's the big key, and that's what allows him to be on time and turn up through a lot of pitches really well. Okay, this is a home run, I believe, or maybe a double to right field against the Brewers. And this is really interesting because this is a really good example of how finishing your turn, or the distance of your turn, is not nearly as important on an outside pitch. Okay, on an inside pitch, it's a must, but his direction is so good here, and he still thrusts his hips forward and gets a lot going, that his energy, he gets a lot of energy going in the direction of the ball versus only worrying about spinning. So some hitters kind of spin this way every single time, no matter where the pitch is, and sometimes they can struggle with outside pitches and waiting and things like that. And so here, you're going to see a very similar move here. So he's going to land in that same position we saw earlier. Here you're going to see that because this is an outside pitch, he lets the ball get really deep. He turns, he releases that bat from his shoulder, unhinges that bat from his shoulder a little earlier, okay? And you're going to see here that as he is releasing, you're going to see his again, the direction, the barrel throw. If he throws the barrel, it's going to be almost to right center field here if he were to throw that bat, okay? And so it's not going to matter as much that he doesn't finish his turn. So you see that, how he kind of stops his turn. It's actually not a big deal there because it's an outside pitch, because he gets such a good back hip thrust up through the ball right here. His back hip is going to pull up and forward, but it's gonna pull, maybe a little bit more to the right side, and he's going to really release that bat up through it as he pulls his back foot. And so, to this position, everything's gone really, really well. And from here, it's just a matter of directing his energy, and his timing allows him to hit that ball really hard to right field. And I believe he hits it's either a home run or a double. Okay, now this last thing I'm going to show you is probably his farthest hit ball of the year, and it was a mistake by the pitcher for sure. And so this one, you're going to see some really cool things from the front side. So same thing. He does a nice job of leg kicking and has a really good tempo of starting early, giving himself time to move. And what you're going to see is that, again, that back hip is kind of resisted, and he just holds that in until it's time to turn. So right here, he's going to be ready to go, and as he goes to open, you're going to see that separation from the front side now. So you can see, I'll go back one frame right about there. That's good. So that back heel, you can see is off the ground. That knee is turned in. Okay, the back hip, you can start to see his belt line, but his chest is still very, very closed here. And so, that front foot is getting into fair territory here, which is kind of what we require as far as getting the front knee to be able to go back in a better way and not being stressful on the front leg. But shoulders closed, you can see that back elbow from the front view here now. You can see that shoulder blade and that elbow kind of pulling back, resisting the upper body, and then it just turns down, very fluid move to get the bat going on plane and up behind the pitch. So as the hips open, the back elbow, back shoulder drop down, and does a really good job of getting into that separated position, and then he just unleashes his barrel turn. And this is a really good example of him kind of letting the barrel away from the shoulder at the right time. And I wrote an article talking about using the knob as a timing for barrel release. And so for him right here, you're going to see him just kind of turn the shoulders and keep the hands and the bat by his shoulder until that knob is sort of facing the ball. So when he kind of feels that, again, his hands haven't moved way away from his shoulder. His front elbow is still bent here. Back elbow is still bent in here. And what you're going to see from there is all he's going to do from there is he's going to let his wrists out, unhinge the barrel, because all the speed's already been created, all the energy, and all he really has to do is just transfer that into the barrel by unhinging his wrists and getting that barrel to be in line with the forearm by the time he makes contact. So right there, see that straight line down from his front forearm. His front elbow is worked up, his back elbow is down, his back shoulder is lower than his front shoulder, his vision is behind the ball right here. Back foot, you can see his back foot's moving here, front leg is straightening, full turn all the way, toward the pitcher with his belly button. It's a really good swing. Again, that pitch is pretty middle right there, so that pitcher made a big mistake, but that's how some of the best hitters make their living, is by punishing those mistakes. Okay, and I'm going to show you one more view of this, and it's going to be kind of a slow motion view. And this really is, you can see, is the knob of the bat right here, kind of just inside the ball or right at the ball. And this is really the role of the wrist in the swing, guys. So a lot of coaches will teach that the wrists create the power, but the power's already been created, and this is the role of the wrist right here, is to unhinge the barrel away from the back shoulder, away from the body, and just to put all that energy we've created and make sure that it translates into the barrel, up through the ball, and this ball goes really, really far. It does a nice job of extending through it. It makes contact with bent arms but doesn't pull off of it. lets those arms out and gets to this really good position. So this is where extension happens. Ideally, his timing is almost perfect here. This is the unhinging of the wrists to get the barrel going and getting a full turn here. So, really, really good. You're going to see him turn a lot further on this particular swing compared to maybe that outside pitch where he drove it to right field. And that's the difference in the look of certain swings on different pitches. But the mechanics, the idea, the generating of the force and the sequence of the movements are all the same regardless of the pitch. But they can look a little different depending on the pitch location, pitch type, and Tyler's timing or any hitter's timing. So, we're really excited about, Tyler being a North Carolina guy, from the mountains here. And, I played against him. And so it's cool to see him doing really well. And I hope he continues his success. And, it's going to be due to the bat. So if you're a baseball fan, watch this guy hit and emulate some of the things that he's doing with the bat because, that swing will translate at any level. And especially if you're maybe not the best athlete, you got to move your body really well, and he's a great example of that. So this is the breakdown of Tyler White. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.